it was the case that by following this document, it was going to require the council to embark on a lot more extra work, and I wondered if that's true or not.
Councillor Motts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do see that Richard Grant is here as well, so he might be able to answer better than mine. However, this statement of community involvement, to my understanding, requires reviewing and updating on a regular basis, and this is part of that process. I'm sure Mr. Grant will correct me if I have that wrong.
Thank you, Councillor. Richard Grant here, Strategic Planning Manager for Joint Local Plan. Councillor Mott is correct. There is a statutory requirement that we update an SCI at least every 5 years, and that's what this report is producing and introducing and asking for adoption. To answer Councillor Cheadle's point, the way we've written the SPD actually really is as a guideline and gives some high-level principles that we believe are the right ones to follow when undertaking consultations. Actually, what we want to be able to do is then design the specifics of a consultation to match whatever that document is trying to introduce. So therefore, it gives us the flexibility and leeway to do that. In terms of does it actually require us to do any more than we're currently doing? I don't think it does, no. I think what it does is set out and refresh the way in which we've presented that in the past, but I don't think there's any requirements in there that would require us to go above and beyond the kind of measures that we're doing now, albeit it gives us that ability to design consultation exercises to ensure they really do get to as many people as possible and engage our communities.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Councillor Mott. Would you like to move the recommendations and get a seconder, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, trying to get my mouse across the two screens, not quite quick enough. In that case, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the recommendation as detailed on page 485 of your agenda, that the council adopts, subject to the other two councils agreeing likewise, that the statement of community involvement as attached, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Debate. Anyone for debate? Okay, thank you. So we'll go again straight to a vote. So again, as we have done previously, anyone who wants to vote against this particular motion and recommendation, can you please show on the conversation list? That's it, Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can see once again no one's indicating on the messaging bar their wish to vote against the recommendation. So again, for the public record, we can assume this is approved by unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 8, political composition of the council. Councillor Jury to introduce, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members will be aware of the recent decision of Councillor Davies to resign from the Conservative Party and from the Conservative group on the council. That has meant that there will have to be a minor realignment of the political balance within the main committees. There's a report that's been sent round to you which summarises the changes that are being proposed, having had discussions with the leader of the Western Alliance. I'd like, if I may, to express my thanks to Mike for the work he's done since he was originally elected on the council, and the work that we have done together. And in my conversations with Mike, I'm really happy that he intends to continue to play a full part in the council, continue to be a major influence on the audit committee. Again, with the agreement of these, we're proposing that Councillor Davies should retain his chairmanship of that committee, and I hope the members will be in agreement with that. There is a list attached which shows the new breakdown of the various committees as proposed. There are a few minor realignments of members in order to accommodate the changes that have needed to be made. But our intention is, at this time when we're concentrating on the COVID emergency this week on getting our high streets back into action, that we're not going to make any major changes to the structure, and we'll leave that until we get to an annual meeting, which we'll hopefully be able to hold next year. That will mean that chairmanship and vice chair of various committees will stay the same. The one exception is to the Standards Committee, where Councillor Davis was previously a member and was previously vice chair, and we are proposing that Councillor Yelland be approved as vice chair of that particular committee. So the realignment and the information that's available has been put in front of you. I'd be really happy to take any questions.
No questions? Okay, thank you. Councillor Cherry, would you like to move the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In which case, I'd like to move the recommendation and parts 1, 2 and 3, which is shown on page 1 of the supplementary document sent out by Mr. White. If I could have a seconder, please.
I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Right, debate. Any debate, please. Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, may I congratulate Councillor Davis on his principled stance. It's always heartwarming to support what they believe to be right. And secondly, may I warmly welcome him to his position as an independent. Surely there can be no better place to be. I've offered him the opportunity to join our alliance meeting should his position as an unaligned independent prove to be lonely, although right now he's deciding to self-isolate politically. But more relevant to today's business, I'd like to register my disappointment that the offer to redistribute posts within the council on a more equitable basis ahead of today's meeting was not accepted. By the metric of those posts with special responsibility, of the two equally placed groups, the Conservative group with a total of 15 councillors has 8 posts, and the Alliance 15 councillors only 5 posts. By no measure could this be described as equitable, either here or by those we seek to represent. But I agree with Councillor Jury that now is not the time, as we're dealing with the impact of COVID-19, to distract us from our task. Instead, this matter will be brought back to be debated when we return to a semblance of normality. And with that caveat, I intend to support the proposal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ewings.
Hello. My comment is it has on the sheet that was sent out by the officers about the indie group. We're not an indie group, we're an alliance group. Probably just historical. So there was that. I'm also a bit perplexed that in light of the figures about the standards decision, that has not been offered to the alliance group. It has instead gone to a Conservative member. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, can I respond to both those points, if I may?
You certainly can.
And I very much appreciate Councillor Cheadle's comments, and I very much appreciate the support that Councillor Cheadle and Councillor Pearce have shown throughout this whole situation, and in getting the council through a potentially difficult position whilst continuing its important work unabated and without any hindrance or diversion. My conversations with Councillor Davis have very much reiterated that he is in full support of myself as leader and Councillor Samuel as deputy leader, and will continue to, in general, work with us in pushing forward our agenda. I'd like to remind Council that this Council does work on a fully cooperative basis, and that tasks and posts are split and across the political divide. I think it's a system that works really, really well in Council. It's completely different to any of the other systems within Devon, and there is a sharing of responsibility, and I greatly appreciate that and greatly welcome that. Is from all sides of the political spectrum need to be heard in the debates that we're having. With regards to the Standards Committee, the chair of that committee is from the Alliance grouping, and I've always referred to as the Alliance, and that I think does give a reasonable amount of balance. There is a majority for the Alliance on that meeting, on that grouping as well, and again I welcome that. I think it's the role of the opposition to hold to account and maintain those checks and balances. But I would welcome obviously further discussions when we come to the annual meeting next year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any more for any more debate? Okay, thank you very much indeed.
I did have a further comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
We've got two which just popped up. Yes, please, Councillor.
It's just a matter of nomenclature, I suppose. And a question for Councillor Jury to consider. Now that the Alliance is 15 and the Conservative Party is 15, I'm not sure the Alliance is the opposition, but that's something for us to consider at a later date.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spedigue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a new councillor, I would just like to share my feelings on the matter, and they are that I feel inspired to see someone put their principles above all else. So, politics aside, someone putting their principles first, like Councillor Davis has, is really inspiring. And I think the residents of his ward are very fortunate to be represented by him.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I think we can, everyone's happy, we can go to the vote on this. And are you happy that we continue as we've gone and just go for voting? Anyone who's against this to actually make that comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, we have two abstain and one against. Sorry, Mr. White, carry on.
No, thank you. I mean, there's a few coming through now, so I wonder actually if it's worth us doing a name vote for the record.
I think that's probably sensible, if you could please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, members in alphabetical order: Councillor Ball.
For.
Councillor Bolton.
Abstain.
Councillor Bridgewater.
Against.
Councillor Cheadle.
For.
Councillor Coulson.
Abstain.
Councillor Crozier.
For.
Councillor Daniel.
Against.
Councillor Davies.
For.
Councillor Edmonds.
For.
Councillor Ewings.
Against.
Councillor Hayworth.
For.
Councillor Hipsey.
Against.
Councillor Jury.
For.
Councillor Kemp.
For.
Councillor Kimber.
For.
Councillor Leach.
For.
Councillor Moody.
Against.
Councillor Mott.
For.
Councillor Moyes.
For.
Councillor Musgrave.
For.
Councillor Pearce.
For.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
For.
Councillor Renders. Councillor Renders? I'll come back to that one. Councillor Samuel?
4.
Councillor Sellis?
4.
Councillor Southcott?
4.
Councillor Spettigue?
Against.
Councillor Vashon?
4.
Councillor Wood?
Against.
Councillor Yelland?
4.
And is Councillor Renders back on the call? Oh, Councillor Renders, just for the record again, Councillor Renders indicates on the message that he wishes to abstain.
Okay.
So therefore,
yes.
members, that is therefore, members, 20 votes in favour of the recommendation with 7 against and 3 abstentions. That therefore is declared carried. Thank you, members.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Please me for my concluding remarks, which is thank you very much for attending today. It's another interesting experience from an interview. I don't know about others, but I seem to be now surrounded by screens, which is certainly something I'm not used to. Very much attending. I'd also like to say that nobody actually told me that our new CEO was attending today. So I'd like to say welcome, Mr. Bates, and I'm sorry we haven't met in person yet. I don't know if you want to say a couple of words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and it's wonderful to be with you all, although we're all still in the virtual world. But thank you for the way in which your council has welcomed me in. It's been really positive, and I'm looking forward to, once we're able to, getting out and meeting all of you properly in due course. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you very much indeed. And now officially close this meeting at 12:20, 12.